This is the Lydia and Spin with Lydia Lunch, and I don't know where Tim Dole is, but that's all right. We have a special episode today because I feel we've had a lot of cock rockers on in the last few weeks, which is important. But now this is kind of an episode about bad choices and mad women. And I'm trying to understand from a variety of viewpoints just the sexual dilemma that we all find ourselves in at the moment, whether it's just about the sexual imbalance of power or women foolishly getting into bad relationships and staying for too long, or women being accused by other women when they're in a relationship which is open that has then been tried to be brought down by accusations which might not be real. So here we are with a very special episode. We're featuring the poetry of Matilda Joon, which is absolutely heartbreaking and beautiful, and then an interview with Dominique Stringfellow, Ken Stringfellow, who has been brought down by accusations. And we're going to discuss exactly what that feels like to be in a relationship for 21 years that was actually made stronger by false accusations from a variety of situations. We're going to discuss that. I think it's an important episode, and here we go. The poetry of Matilda Joon, followed by my interview with Dominique Stringfellow. Hello, Matilda.
Hello, Lydia.
Had a great show together, and I thought I would bless my listening audience with what exactly you read and then have a small discussion about it with you.
Yes.
If we could please have your brilliant poetry, which broke my heart and inflamed my soul. Please, Matilda Joon.
Go ahead. You blow lies through my eyes like smoke rings, all the dark lies of love laughing at me through bloody teeth. Dreamless with no future, no promise of loyalty, just one sick joke after the next. You fall asleep with someone else. I slam my face into the mirror. I shoot death like black bubblegum. I eat your insults like rotten plums. I drink your lies that drip from your mouth like black honey. I'm still coughing up your evil. Your hell makes my whole body hurt. I just wanted the sky to go away. I just wanted the world to leave me alone. You took my heart and broke it over your kneecap like Christ breaking bread. I take your spit, your breakups, your games, your laughter, and I spin it into harmony. Sew it up nice and tight into my slapped around heart. You pour your cruelty down my face like loose poison. You butter me up with your bitterness. I was only trying my best to keep us afloat. I turn my tears into diamonds. I break off my wings and cover the dead. I lick the blood off my hands and run with the ghost dogs under blue skies. But I'm coming for you. These bloodshot green eyes of sorrow is coming for you. Tonight I'll have to scrub you out of my heart. Tonight I'll have to bite the pillow, rinse you off of me, shaking you off of my skin, baptizing you out of my mind. I'm saying yes to death and hijinks murder. I smash everything that moves and secretly laugh at your lame thrills. Maybe you shouldn't play dice with my emotions. Maybe you should quit shitting in my beauty. Maybe my body is battle wounded. Maybe I was born too tired to lie to you in the first place. And maybe it's been one of a hell of a running back, running forever in circles around frauds for decades. Give me my words back. Give me back my witchcraft. Give me my exorcist dogs. Give me the black cursed black hat on the bed and another lover. He never noticed my bird shell heart. He never noticed how I lassoed the sun. He never noticed my saveless tears. He hardly even noticed when I left for anywhere but goddamn there. To the pines, to the shores, any place my mind could roam, I drifted towards. Another safety pin needle through the skin of the heart, another name tag of sorrow lost during this battle to remain alive. You earn your stripes, you earn your blood, you earn your hot and wet stained tears, you earn the bitterness behind your glowing eyes. You swallow it like the hatred for your old man. You swallow it like the last time before your divorce. You swallow all God's childish jokes. You learn to get cold. You learn to get deadly. You learn your own sick medicine. This thing that I keep quiet, its leash is starting to unfurl. Just when I thought my skin was tough enough to swing from the hooks, the bird shells collapse in my chest, and there is nowhere to storm off to. I can't keep anything. What my eyes covered, my mind releases. What my body touches floats out to the distance. Where my fingers reach, there is God's empty seat. Where my spirit yearns to be, there's a locked exit door and several roadblocks. Every kiss I ever received or gave has fallen onto the pavement, for better or worse. It doesn't really matter. I don't follow any path or any fashion. I follow the birds and the lawlessness of a homeless dog. I follow the heavens wherever she may roam, and I will leave nothing. Judge me? You must be kidding. I eat the dark things that animals cough up. Damnation is my passport. God and the devil are my mother and father. My life is the song of the crippled dancer with a pinched nerve. It's not a song two people fall in love to. It's more of a selfish number danced to alone, with nobody else in the hall, standing in the shadow wearing suicide shoes. I dust my jacket off and walk like a bruised feline back into the woods for more punishment. There is nowhere left to run off. Did I ever tell you that in my heart, my guardian angel is a vulture? While you play by rules you've been played by, I move in and out and around you, and I'm an angel on the four corners of the wind. You bat in the air as I steal your eyes, one soft pluck at a time. Then I go to work on your teeth until your smile is so black that even heaven won't look at you twice. I'm the murderous music that shuts off the air while you pine away at your desk. My work is done, ready and waiting for you when you wake up, when you clock out, when you're not expecting it, even though you will feel me on the tips of your spine hair. You will know my hug in your heaven, fucked-eyed, drug-induced coma. You wallow in the medication of my perfume. The blood of your religions are the crushed grapes that make up my wine. You never seems to fancy a change, yet you haven't changed the radio station for the last 50 years. I owe you thanks for giving me something to do with my time, for proving me right and birthing a mockery to my invalid league. You don't need to call me. I'm already in your phone. Don't you know? You turned the castle of my heart into a graveyard. I didn't come here to make your spirit feel bad. I came to learn how to live under this spell that you've spilled when always isn't an option. But it's too late, too damn stupid, too fucked up to drape my phantom longing arms around you tonight. I have chased the romance dream through train tunnels, over graveyard hills, infernos of shame, castles of shit, and ice gardens of clowns. I have chased the heart through hocus pocus, the jungles of the human mind, through space and time. I have chased beauty like a cat races for a bird on fire, trying to see the writings on the wall, searching out the golden slumbers of the softest touch, the healing cathedral of the soft touch. I have chased it, and now my body, mind, and face look all too similar to a neglected wolf. And I smiled, my crooked and broken smile. To be held at bay in a sea of sleep, to be charmed, to rise above death and life, to kill fear, to be one with the other. I see you in your soft sleep, and I catch you there, and I hold you with my tiny winter bird mittens. I don't want anything from you. I just want the path of time to stop for a spell in its own stopwatch. I want the world to evaporate around me and hold you in a nest of soft music and kiss you until your eyes melt like Hollywood, 1940, death, white, frosting. You should have held on to me. I wanted to give you my heart in a cupcake wrapper, and you sailed it down the river. Anger is a fire, and I will let it burn bright and fierce, a beacon guiding me away from you, away from the wreckage you left behind. You never saw my tears, the way they fell like rain, the nights I spoke in shadows and learned to whisper my pain. You never felt the tremor in my voice, the way it shattered like glass. You'd never experienced the warmth of my laughter, the kind that could light up the darkest room, the joy that radiated from my being, so vibrant, so alive, before it dulled beneath the weight of your cold indifference. You never saw the sweetness of my dreams, the way I painted futures with colors you couldn't see. You never understood the strength it took, the courage it demanded to finally turn away, to walk down that road that led to my freedom, to a life unshackled from your chains. You never grasped the beauty of resilience, the fierce spirit that rose from the ashes of your betrayal, the way I blossomed in the face of your storms. You stand alone, clutching memories like crumpled paper, not realizing they are just remnants of a world you never truly inhabited. You will never witness my rebirth, the way I rise like dawn breaking through the longest night, the way I find love that nurtures, that celebrates, that sees me wholly. The void of my absence, the echoing reality, the light, the warmth, the heartbeat of a life that you thought would always revolve around you. I am gone now. And with me, the whole fucking kaleidoscope of everything you missed. All the moments you took for granted, the softness of my presence, the strength in my resolve. You will never know the taste of true companionship, the depth of connection that transcends the surface, that weaves two souls into one, of understanding and support. You will never see me smile, the way I dance in the rain, free from your storm. I'm gone. You're left with everything you never saw, everything you never felt, everything you never experienced. And in my departure, you lose not just me, but the chance to know what it means to truly love, because we both know you can't. You can mimic love, but you will never understand love. You can pretend to care, feign affection, simulate devotion, but it's all a ruse, a clever disguise. You can learn the words, the actions, the gestures, but you will never grasp the essence, the depth, the sincerity of true love. You can love yourself, your image, your status, your power, and your fucking money. That's so damn important to you, but you will never truly love another person. You're incapable of empathy, of selflessness, of vulnerability, of genuine connection. This, between us, was all a trap. A snare, a web of deceit. You used me, drained me, abused me, all while proclaiming your undying love and devotion. You're a chameleon, a shapeshifter, an actor, always playing a role, always hiding behind a mask. A hustler draped in a cloak of virtue, a mirage of compassion that dances in the light, a beacon of charm, the kind of smile that seems to promise understanding, the kind of words that flow so easy. Wrapped in the language of empathy, you advocate for the rights of women, raising your voice for those silenced, a self-proclaimed feminist, elevated by many as a hero. Yet, as the sun sets and the shadows stretch across the floor, the facade begins to fracture. Behind closed doors, the air turns heavy. The warmth of your charm morphs into a chill. The same hands that clasp in solidarity suddenly start abusing me. The same voice that echoes in support becomes a tool of manipulation. The empathy you wear is stripped away. Your monster inside unfurls. Words that once uplifted now becomes blades. The very principles you profess to uphold are cast aside as double standards rise like walls around your true self. How easy it is to champion a cause, to stand tall in the light while the shadows harbor secrets. How tempting it is to bask in the praise of those who cannot see beyond the surface, who are blinded by the allure of your performance. And I know something is wrong. It doesn't feel right. I'm trying to hold it together. I mean, we are good people. We love each other. Our love is so deep, so strong, so big. The passion between us is intoxicating. But I'm really trying to keep it together here, you know? And I guess in hindsight, you must have had the time of your life watching me scramble with the broken pieces, knowing very well I could never fix it. I could never fix what I tried to fix for years, mending, caring, loving, fixing. And one day I looked in the mirror at myself and I didn't recognize myself or my life or what was going on. What the fuck is going on? Oh my God, you hate me. Yesterday you loved me. Today you screamed in my face for 3 hours for no reason at all, really. Last week you hit me. But apparently that was my fault. You said I was standing too close to you. Just out of nowhere, punched me. I mean, I'm too smart to buy into anyone's bullshit or abuse. I mean, I can't. I can't. I can't believe that I'm living this life with you who treat me this way. And then I started thinking about how scared I am to go to sleep next to you. I'm thinking about, what if you choke me again, but this time while I'm sleeping? The sensation of dread. I'm lying next to the person who should be my safe haven, but instead I feel a suffocating anxiety. I'm not falling asleep. I'm bracing myself for the unknown. This fear is not irrational. It is a visceral response to the reality of abuse, a reality where trust is shattered and every moment is a negotiation between safety and danger. The very act of closing my eyes feels like a surrendering to an imminent threat. The chilling pleasure you derive from inflicting pain on me. It may seem incomprehensible that someone could find joy in the suffering of another, yet for you, it's not just a possibility, it is a driving force. In your eyes, inflicting pain is not merely an act of cruelty, it is a source of validation. You revel in the emotional turmoil you create, feeding off the fear, confusion, and despair of me. This sadistic pleasure is compounded by your narcissism, the belief that you are inherently special and superior, deserving of adoration and control over me. You spun your tales. I believed in your words. I danced to the music of your lies. You used my trust like a currency, spent it without a thought. And I still held on, like a moth to a flame, burning yet drawn to the light. Take your games, take your lies, your jealousy. I won't wear your scars like a second skin. I'm walking away from your voice, and let the silence teach me to love again. I'm out of your game. I'm retired from trying to convince you that I am an actual human being with inherent value. And I am not spending another second of my life in your gaslighting despair. You keep the idea of love. I keep the empty gun. You keep the photo album. I keep the sun. Keep the goddamn money. The memories are staying with me. Keep your rules. They clash with my laws. Keep your sheep phone filled with your sheep pussy supply. I'll keep my priceless body, mind, and soul. You will not own my silence. I will not whisper apologies for your actions, for the way you twisted love into chains, for the way you tried to break my spirit and murder my soul, for the way you turned my heart into a battlefield. Your grip no longer holds me. Your shadows no longer loom. I am free, and in that freedom, I have the power. And you are wrong. I'm not hard to love. I am love. And I love myself, and I always have in ways you never could.
Matilda Joon, I thank you so much for being
Yeah.
so poetic, so heartbreaking, so romantic, so beautiful,
Yeah.
and hopeful and hateful. And I have to ask you a few questions about this because I know personally, and we don't have to go into too many details, because these are words a lot of women need to hear. And what's interesting is we've had a lot of cock rockers on the podcast recently. So today we're having a confusion fest, which means we're coming at the idea of twisted romance, violence, emotional violence from a few different perspectives. So I'm going to ask, and I'm going to do a little reading. We're having another guest on as well who has come at this issue of the imbalance of sexual power, the imbalance of emotional power, on later in the podcast. But I have to ask you, and knowing you as I have for many years, you're an intelligent, self sufficient, very talented, and very accomplished woman. Yet at this point in your life, you still fell into a manipulative trap by someone for what? In the search for love, because you still have love. You believe in it. But that love was shat upon. So from the shit of someone else's insecurity and fear comes the rage of your gorgeous and romantic poetry.
Yeah.
Now, and I know there's a feeling of doom and rage filled guilt or responsibility for even allowing yourself. We're over that now. The poetry and the performances help. But do speak to that for a minute and also tell me it's not going to happen again.
No. The first part of this spoken word piece, the first part is quite old actually, and is co-written with from that. I had a thing called June Baby June with a guitarist from here, from Sweden, from the Lebanon, and a musician and poet from America. His name is Ian Ottaway. So,
and interesting that it was partially written by two men.
No, yeah, the music was, but
right.
the first part of this spoken word is old. So, and that was co-written with Ian. But the last half, the second half,
is the most recent thing.
Yes, that's written very recently, and that's just mine. So it's two different pieces that I brought together. So one is old.
In writing this now, in writing what the last piece that you just did, and of course, because this is why we live as long as we do, we have lessons to relearn and relearn again.
Exactly.
In writing all of this and in performing it, as you did recently, they always ask, oh, is there catharsis? Well, I mean, the only thing that can change in this world, complaining, writing, art, nothing, well, even violence won't change, is our perspective and our behavior the next time something comes around.
Yes, I mean, we learn as long as we live, and even if we get 100 years old, we will learn. I think my mistake in this was that I went against everything
again and against.
Yeah, but it was a long time ago. I had one bad relationship in the late 90s, but I was young then, you know.
Well, hang on, honey. One bad relationship in the late 90s, and then it took you all this time to have another bad one. Not bad.
Exactly. That's why I really pissed off at myself, because I thought I learned my lesson. And I've been, for 20 plus years, it's been quite calm in the relationships. And then I was single for years.
Which is not a problem.
No,
as a matter of fact,
I wanted to be single,
I'm going to read a little piece about being single for a minute, and then we're going to continue talking, okay?
All right.
And this is from my book, Paradoxia. To fill the void within, only the self will suffice. We reach this realization only after we've stuffed every hole, every orifice, every opening with an indiscriminate array of pointless junk, wreckage, waste, human offal. And still hunger remains unsatisfied, especially when the object of desire is forever in flux. Gluttony is never satisfied, whether it's for sex, food, or drugs. It begs to be fed an enormous amount of useless stimulation, information, trivial sound bites, random affections, unrelated facts and figures, and forgettable fucks. And sometimes the more you've had, the more you want. An endless cycle of multiple frustrations where nothing seems to satisfy, sometimes not even in dreams. And my dreams were full of blistering hallucinations on an epileptic scale, a crash of limbs and legs, crusty with the browning blood of a transgenerational orgy where hundreds of bodies flail wildly in slow motion like a bad acid flashback, marrying Hieronymus Bosch to Ted Bundy, bruises and scars rippling like varicose veins under blacklight. The returning ghosts of all those I had sexed began re-emerging like a flash flood bursting the memory banks. And to repeat again, to fill the void within, only the self will suffice. Being single is not the issue, but we still hold out hope for romance and love, because we do. Now that we've had this lesson one more time, I want to propose that women, because the world is not how we want it and romance is not how we would like it, except for a short period, that women have to learn, and I'm not blaming any victims because we've all been victims of whatever, and we are all victimized, men and women, but women have got to learn psychic, psychological, and physical self-defense. And we also have to learn the warning signs in a relationship, because abusive people, psychopaths, are very charismatic and very manipulative.
Well, that's
I'll never do it again, and I'll never do it again. And of course they're going to do it again. I think, look, everybody deserves two chances. After that, they get a throat punch. That's just my opinion.
Yes, I think these people that I have a couple of times been drawn to, they are so charming. And it's hard to sometimes not be seduced by these charms and this flattery and all these promises.
Also, when they're talented.
Promises. Yes,
also, talented, especially if they're writers.
Yes, and you know, it's been a couple of people that I've met, but I usually recognize it. But here, I really fell, you know, head over heel and just went for it. But I did recognize it.
I want to say this. When we, quote unquote, fall in love, we are falling in love with a chemical reaction which our bodies create by being stimulated by another vehicle, another human being. So the thing is, if we could learn that feeling of being in love is our feeling and use it on ourselves, which I do, it would make a big difference, because then you're not really going to tolerate too much fucking bullshit.
No.
Amen.
And that's what probably I'm dealing with right now, that I haven't acted like this for decades. And then I fall again, and apparently I don't feel like I can learn something from him. He got nothing to learn me, but I need to learn from myself. What the fuck did I do? You know, because what he did was just bad things. Really, really bad things.
So let's go back to this core. But hang on, let's go back to this core. Because I never think abuse starts right where we see it in front of us. I think that the trail of abuse is so historical. And so it's very hard to also, I'm not disavowing the damage that damaged people do. And damaged people do have an attraction to each other. I mean, there's a magnetism.
Yeah, of course.
But we don't know how far back the damage, genetic, historical, mitochondrial, and the cycle is what I've always spoken about, that must be stopped. I mean, that's what's so important. And that's why it's important to hear these words, to hear these poems, to continue to speak out about it, and to try to remember not to become self-inflicting victims of the same again. Because we do hold out hope that there is love, but we have to remember that is what we should be unto ourselves.
Absolutely. if I guess can say, what I think happened was that I actually, first of all, people who are mean, cruel, or abused, they don't do that all the time. They are also
Exactly.
very loving, charming, and suddenly, so you cling to that. Oh, but I know that he can be beautiful, loving, and there for me. And then suddenly it's just
Yeah.
shifts all the time.
And there's
And
no necessarily there's no reason for it. It's not always. And if alcohol and drugs are involved, there's definitely no reason because people just spaz out.
exactly. And I mean, I knew from the beginning, from the very first time I met him, that there was something wrong. I felt it. And it was that feeling. And I remember coming home and I knew I had to choose this way or that way. And I ignored everything that I learned, my super instinct, gut feeling, intuition, I just put aside. I did that. I knew I did that
I
because
know that so well because
you
I
know,
know that so well because the last time I put my instinct aside
yeah.
and I knew I was going into a disaster zone, and again with a writer who ended up in prison for 10 years, that I still have to think we went into this, as we sometimes do when we're experienced,
Yeah.
hoping, or, and this is what the balance has to be, is the chemical insanity of love, right? Versus the pain that will follow and the poetry that will then come from. I mean, where's the balance in this? And the thing is, I consider the last disastrous. I'm not, and I knew what I was getting into.
Mm.
Okay, I have to go there one more time, proving I will never do it again.
But it was also something really, really deep inside of me. I had promised him to never leave. And I took
Ah,
that, wow, really serious. I will never leave him. I promised him. It was almost sacred. And I also, as I think I explained to you on a phone call before New Year's, that I have this image of him. And this is part of the sort of, that he got me,
cycle of
he
insanity.
no, he got me hooked, almost a little bit of a brainwashing. I see this image of him as a boy, a wounded boy that I want to save.
I understand
I will
so
never leave you.
completely.
I
Yep.
will never leave you. I will always be there. I know
Right.
you treat me bad sometimes, but it's just the phase. It will get better. Bah, bah, bah.
But this
You
exactly,
tell yourself all
Matilda,
these
this is
things.
so important what you just said,
Hmm.
because people that have been wounded see the beautiful child in somebody else that has
Yeah.
also been wounded that we want to say, and we can't save anyone from themselves.
No.
And the thing is, we need to heal that our own devastated fucking child. Nobody else is going to do it. No amount of love, adoration, any of that. We People have to save themselves, and I think that women really fall into this trap, and put an impossible responsibility on men, and men. I mean, because they're more flippant. I believe that's the male in me talking, that there's just so much responsibility. And the thing is, you should never tell anyone you're never going to leave them. I think the difference between me and a lot of people is I had many relationships where I said, I will be leaving you in 2 years because I'm going to move, but the love that we have should be molecular, and it will not get sour, and it will always be in you. But the love you feel for me, or I feel for you, is the love you feel that's in yourself. So learn. I feel
Yeah.
like fucking Tony Robbins here. So know how to stimulate that chemical reaction for yourself, because no one will ever love me as much as I love myself. And once women especially learn this, it's so much easier. Because once, look, and I'll say this again, this is one of my mantras: women want a nice guy that can occasionally be an asshole, because we don't want somebody too boring. We get an asshole that pretends to be a nice guy. Wrong.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then, well, the
Definitely.
second half of this podcast is going to deal with the opposite side of this situation, which is going to be dealing with how nice guys get accused of being assholes, because sometimes people want more than what they're given, and
Mm.
then they make accusations about abuse. So we're going to be talking to somebody else about this subject on the rest of this
Yeah.
podcast. I want to thank you for the beautiful poetry.
Thank you.
The performance we did together was fantastic.
It
And there's
was.
just
It
more.
was so much fun, you know.
And it was the first time I think you did in total this whole piece that you blessed us with tonight.
Yeah, and I loved it. I wish I could go and have spoken word performances every day. And I
So
think
do
that
I.
is like a public psychotherapy, just, getting out of it.
Well, and what's
But
interesting
yeah,
is I remember when you didn't need it, but you took my workshop. And the first poem that you came out with, I'm like, I was with goosebumps and almost in tears. I'm like, why
yeah,
is this woman taking my class? She knows how to, she's saying exactly what needs to be said. And I
yeah.
love you for this. So this is the Pussy Power podcast this week. All right, so we're going to close this out. I'm going to try to shut this down. And Matilda Joon, Lydia Lunch. After we met, I recorded Matilda. And we discussed her poetry is great, but I also discussed why she was in a relationship for 2 years at this age with a maniac who was abusive. And then I
Mm.
read a short piece of mine about filling the void within. So this episode is going to be about, I think I'm going to call it Mad Women and Bad Choices. And what's interesting in talking to you is to talk to a woman who has been made um, horrified by the accusations of other women against a man in her life that we both knew.
Mm.
So I just want to discuss a little of that with you from another side of this controversial subject matter. And a few things that I want to say is that, first of all, no relationship is perfect, and people often stay in one too long until it becomes so horrible that they think the whole thing has been just a series of abuse. That's not necessarily true. I think women have to learn how to get out of relationships, men too, absolutely,
Yeah.
when it is no longer beneficial to the individual. Now, if only it was that easy. Having been in many relationships myself, some for the longest relationships I've been in, 7 years, three or four of them were actually pretty good. Some of the shorter ones, I got out because either I was moving or I knew that was the limit of it. There
Mm.
is no perfect relationship, but, and the world is not how we want it to be, women, but we can choose how we react to situations which a complaint alone will not change. And the world will not change because we complain. Not that I'm going to stop complaining, of course I do. Trying to add some kind of alternative reason to the situation of the imbalance of power, sexual or political. So I welcome you, Dominique, who's been, I hate to use the word victimized, I'm just going to say assaulted by the
Yeah.
insults of other women trying to take down a very talented and I always found quite gentle musician who I never, and many other women I've spoken to have never had any negative experiences with. So just fill me in on how much hell you've had to go through in the past few years, but which has not damaged your relationship and
Mm.
probably made it stronger.
No, it made it stronger, that's for sure. But first of all, Lydia, I would like to thank you to give me a voice because I've been bullied into silence by journalists and also like by a female Seattle writer who was, of course, like mentioned in the allegation article and who has been like lying publicly saying I was not even the one writing on my social media, because why? Because I'm an inconvenient truth.
You are an inconvenient truth. Carry on.
Yes, exactly. And when it comes to giving a voice to women, I'm okay for debate, there is no problem with that. Being silenced, my big mouth cannot take it. So I think I have to give the context first because some people don't know about the story. So me, I've done my career in music business and like mostly rock scene. So I've spent my life backstage working for big labels, major labels, and independent labels from Nirvana, Sonic Youth, many bands I've been working with, even obscure band you have never heard of. And I met Ken in 93, and we have been now married for more than 21 years. And I know the rock life. I know how it is. We were in an open marriage, don't ask, don't tell situation. And
well, by the way, excuse me, because I have to commend you for that. Because
yeah,
I found a real problem in so many relationships is this inability to deal with the possibility that sex, first of all, the soul does not reside in the pussy, and that sex should be something. I don't think that marriage should be a chastity belt. I think if you love someone, you want them to be free, not entrapped. And I think that either you can deal with that or you can't. And if you're going to deal with musicians or artists or, intense characters in general, female or male, you either accept that or you're hurting yourself by not accepting it because you will be hurt if you allow yourself. Please carry on.
Yeah. And also, like, Ken and I had the same background, like I didn't marry until I was 37 because I was free, as you mentioned. And Ken was the same, actually. And I'm not a jealous type. And for me, it's a freedom über alles. So, like, for me, it was just natural way. He had been touring for 40 years, mostly single. So, yes, of course, he had numerous consensual hookups or relationships and stuff like this. So, like, for me, I didn't see an issue, and I should have. I really should have. Because, like, Ken is not that famous, except he joined famous bands. And this is when he became like a kind of sitting duck for many. And so what I have to say is, like, it all started with when Ken had casual encounters, just 7 over the course of 2 years. But it seems when you go back to like all the messages that were sent, that
from her to him,
yeah,
or both, mostly
both,
from her.
Yeah, it was messaging, but we are talking of intense messaging, especially she like was messaging every day actually, and he was like answering and sometimes taking some days to answer. But it's obvious she became besotted, and at some point in 21, Ken decided to withdraw his consent for more hookups, and she got heartbroken. And I've got lots of empathy for that, because
she got heartbroken because
for him it was enough. It was becoming like too much for him, and it was supposed to be casual only and not a committed relationship.
Let's just talk about that for 1 minute, because casual can be very intense. It doesn't have to dominate your life. And if people could appreciate more that you can have an experience that's intense, that's fantastic, that's mutual, that's consensual, and it might only be once, or it might be 7 times, or it might be 5 times, or it might go on for 10 years. But you have to learn to be satisfied with this. And this is the issue, I think, with a lot of people, is you have to fill the void within with yourself and be happy that somebody else can come as a vehicle to inspire the feelings in you that we do have. And I'm all for feeling the chemical insanity of being in love, but you also can't be strangling another person, stalking them, or trying to tie them down to your own imagination, or your own morality.
Yeah, it's true. So true. Anyway, as I was saying, I have lots of empathy for breakups, because, they are very difficult to deal with. And so she became very angry with Ken after this, even if if you have access to like the messages, he was trying to like being gentle, it didn't work at all. And she was very angry. And like a few weeks later, she rallied a few women and organized, as she says, she claims, not me saying this, an article of allegations with other ex-casual hookups, relationship, whatever, who made allegation of misconduct against him. And
which, by the way, was fine at the time, but then in retrospect, it is not fine. Nobody was complaining at the time, like, hey, you asshole. And this is one thing I have to deal with here is, if you do not like a situation, first of all, don't blame drugs or alcohol, because if you are fucked up and you do something and then you don't like it, that's the responsibility of you, not the other person, for taking advantage. It could be much fucking worse. Women and men, you have to learn to take responsibility for your own actions, and you have to learn how to defend yourself. And if you don't like it, stop it then. Don't stop it or complain about it. I mean, everybody has the right to complain, to make voice. But the thing is, if it's years later, what took you so? Why can't you stop it at the time? This is something women have got to learn to do. You don't like it, fucking stop it. And if you did like it, and then suddenly you don't like it because you don't have it anymore, this is a fucking issue. This goes for both sexes. And to me, I'm very intense about this issue, because I know that that's some of the complication of this whole subject.
Yeah, I know it is. I know it is. And so like I go back to like the timeline. We are talking about women who were in their 40s and 50s, and women who were like following Ken on tour, or arranging to drive him around, or meeting him, booking hotels, paying for hotels to be close to the venue where he was. So I mean, like, when you read the article, it shows as if it's written the way to show like he's like kind of jumping on women, but no, it were hookups that were planned and organized by them.
Okay, and I want to say, well, there's victims, quote unquote. Then there are willing victims. Then there are willing victims who set themselves up for this. And if they're making these arrangements and they're contacting and they're very happy with the situation, and then suddenly they're not, they have to ask themselves what they expected more when they probably had a very good time at that moment, and now it's gone. So now you're heartbroken. Now you're angry. Now you want revenge.
I will not even comment about their motivation. I think the timeline does it for myself, because what the article, there's another angle about this, is it's the mechanism of allegation through the press when there is no due process, no cross-examination, whatever. And the journalists decided to leave out like the fact that this relationship carried on after what they alleged.
The allegations. Wait, one more time. And this relationship attempted to carry on after the allegations. Is that what you're saying?
It's not attempted. They carried on. Like, I'm saying that, like, for two of the women, like one making the more, I would say, horrendous one, just invited him to stay at her home for 3 days after she organized it. And not only home, but bedroom for 3 days, where he stayed there. And she commented after, my bed smells like you, like as something positive, you see. And she was also giving interview 2 years later, so in 2017, and she was saying like that he was like an emotional support and many thanks to him, blah, blah, blah. So honestly, and another one who said, and this is a printed lie in the article says the relationship faded after this. Untrue, lie, printed lie. She organized another hookup with him. She traveled from where she lives into New Orleans to spend a weekend. She booked and paid for the hotel to spend 2 days with Ken after, like, what she alleges. Yeah. And so like you go, okay, it doesn't make any sense. And I think like it didn't make any sense for Ken, you know, suddenly to have this. And the third woman was making allegation of abuse, and here I step in, because I confronted her. I confronted her to say to stop her abuse on her family. She pressured Ken like to divorce me. It was a terrible experience. Like, she started to be a nice person that I met, and like they recorded. So wait,
1 minute, please, Dominique. Mm-hmm. You meet one of the other quote unquote other women, who is then also harassing Ken to divorce you. Why didn't she not just propose a throuple, the three of you? I know. Excuse me.
Because it developed in the way that she was kind of my friend to start with, and suddenly disappeared and recorded like a duet album with Ken. And then around the tour, like a kind of affair started. And this is when pressure started. And like to the point that Ken had to quit the tour because of pressure. Like he was feeling so bad. And it's the first time in his life that he canceled tour dates. You have to know this, because he's not the kind to cancel anything. And
let me just say one thing. We are dealing with a very specific type of situation having to do with the imbalance of power. So in other words, when someone feels weakened or rejected, then they take their power out with anger, which causes distress on the other person. This is and I am not saying, I am saying, look, we know abuse is prevalent. We know that you have to be very aware of what you are doing and who you are doing with. We know that the world is not fucking perfect. Women have to learn to defend themselves, but we cannot continue with this victimization, self victimizing of women falsely. This is one side of it. Look, I talked about the other side of patriarchal and sexual abuse my entire career. I'm not defending anybody who is a predator. I am simply opening the discussion up to then people who become stalkers of someone else. This is a very broad subject, but it has to be addressed because I don't see anyone else addressing this possibility. And especially in a long-term relationship with a woman who understands that an open relationship in a marriage is possibly the best situation you can have. Because also there comes a point, I don't know about you, but I'm going to speak for myself. If you're in a long-term relationship, your libido might drop for them, but they might still have one. So get the fuck out of here and go fuck somebody. That's my opinion. Go ahead. Please, it's only sex, and sex is very important. But you know what? To try to put the responsibility on one person to fulfill all of your emotional, sexual, philosophical needs is a burden no one should exact upon anyone else or should feel responsible for. And I think that women do this more than men because men are more flippant, or I don't know what, maybe they're just more used to being allowed to be more liberated. And I think that women need to be not only liberated from sexual mores that have been imposed upon them and morality, especially Catholic guilt, and they need to be held responsible for their own bad decisions or good decisions that are made bad in retrospect.
I think like after breakup, women will tend to reevaluate the relationship in a negative way. And I'm probably convinced that they convince themselves of like being a victim, actually. You see my point? Like,
I do.
I'm sure in their mind and not looking at facts that I have.
Well, situations, the facts are they have been abused, but why did they take it for so long? And I understand there is a psychological, there is a trauma bond, there is a manipulation. I will never do this again. But in this instance, it is the opposite of I will never do this again. It's like, you won't do it again. Therefore, I'm blaming you for doing it in the first place. Oh, it has to be my next t-shirt.
It's true.
I think this is a very important topic to address. And again, I never blame the victims, but I want women to not be victims. I want them to be strong enough to understand or realize if they don't like it immediately, get the fuck out. And if somebody is truly abusive, I don't mean in a relationship. I mean also and look, I'm in Paris now and you're in France. And I know many women have been assaulted and attacked on the streets of Paris. So learn to fucking throat punch, carry a fucking cast iron mini frying pan if you have to, put perfume in their eyes, don't take it anymore, and then don't resent or regret that you didn't stop it when it was happening. You have to be stronger because there are real victims of domestic violence, of sexual violence, of war violence, and to just be accusatory over something that no longer exists drives me fucking nuts.
It did me too. It did. And so I carry on the timeline because it's quite explicative of it all. Like the famous third woman was like putting pressure to divorce. Like when Ken sold the tour, came back home, said, give me some space. She didn't. Yeah. Like she said, I can understand intellectually, but I cannot do it. So she started emailing him every 2 days, like putting like more and more pressure. And it was like, such a nightmare. Like we were here as a family and I could hear like, you know, when you eat like the video call or whatever on social media, like harassment to the point I said, okay, I'm stepping in. So I said, okay, I'm going to call her. And she put the phone down on me. So I said, I'm going to write her.
Well, and by the way, do you know why it's possible to be in a relationship for 21 years with somebody who's on the road all the time? It's because your bond is deeper than just fucking sex.
True.
Your bond is deeper than sex. And look, sex is not to be, I mean, it can be one of the greatest things, but it's one thing. It's not the beginning and the end of everything. And I think that too many people in a relationship want to. I look at it this way: if they like to golf and you don't, you're not going to make me fucking golf. If they want to have sex with other people and I don't want to, go ahead.
Mm.
I have to compare it to something really banal. And we know sex is not banal, but we have to understand when did so much import be put upon fucking bullshit monogamy or this possession thing? And this is why I love you the minute I met you, and I've been waiting to meet you because I knew you as someone now in my coven. This is how we feel. Sex is now the beginning and the end of everything. The soul does not reside in the fucking pussy. And the best way to keep a person in a relationship is to understand they need to be free in that relationship, not with a chastity belt, not constrained, not morally, and not to your moral standards. It's bullshit. This is like, who are you, your grandparents? This is why I respect you and your relationship. And this is why it's lasted 21 years.
I think so too. Except like this, as you can see, this freedom as the high price to pay. I'm sorry, like my English is so bad today.
It sounds pretty good to me, honey. Don't worry about it.
A very high price to pay, because like we ended up with this like allegation article on Ken, and this now I have to say that there is a mechanism behind this because of the way the journalists treat this, and it's very interesting. First of all, Ken had no chance to defend himself in the article.
Because the lawyers tell you to be quiet.
There is that. We were in 2021 where you were not supposed to open your mouth in that. You had to lay low and disappear, etc., apologize, and just don't say a thing, me included. And being like Latino, honestly, like being told to shut up, being empowered and being told to shut up, I like the rage level was going up. But I understood and played the game. For me, it was like the worst choice ever, but we had to play by these rules at that time. But what you have to know, like, I will have to tell how it happened, these journalist things. Like, Ken was playing the memorial for a friend in Seattle. And then as he was like at 1 a.m, loading his gear, like to go home, two women came to him saying, we are journalists and working on an allegation article. And he said, what? Can you tell me more? No, we won't. We won't unless you sit with us, and it's going to be published on Friday. They call that reporting, okay? So like he was given a lunch break, less than an hour, to like kind of defend himself, except they withheld names, except they didn't give any details. So there was no way, first of all, he could say, bring, facts, and he was not given any time for this, especially when you don't know what you're dealing with. And after this, we found out that they had brought into KUOW, had brought into the memorial one of the
which is a radio station in Seattle.
Oh, yeah, sorry. And who published on their website this allegation.
This allegations, right.
And they had brought in the memorial one of their photographers to take the picture that illustrates the article. In other words, they've already decided they were going for it. They were not like waiting to have a second side of the story or give time for Ken to defend himself. Like he couldn't see any proof to comment or whatever, it was like, just that time.
It's always the ones that have disappointment, insecurity, that have the loudest voices. I was sure he could have hundreds of testimonials to how wonderful he has treated us women, how gentle and generous he is, what a great and talented songwriter he is, and what an ultimate fucking romantic he is. He's fucking highly romantic, which is a hard thing to maintain in this day and age with dignity. And this is why on this episode also is Matilda Joon, with poetry, with romanticism that has integrity, dignity, intensity. This is a very rare thing. He's not frauding or fronting anything. He is exactly what he is. And that he is misrepresented like this is ridiculous. Because look, I'm sure we could get 100 testimonials for women that, oh, it was a successful, great night. Maybe it only happened once, maybe it happened twice, but it was amazing. Thank you very much.
And you know what? They did some cherry picking, because what you're mentioning here, they said that they interviewed 20 people for that. And we know, because they came towards us saying, I've been interviewed. I said this, like, and we have even a witness who said that one of the women, she was witness of the abuse she put her family through, and she has disappeared from the article. Totally not mentioned, you know? So like, it's totally one-sided.
But then again, it's very controversial, the whole thing, because again, we want women to speak out. I mean, right now I had to change a venue I'm playing at in 3 weeks because of allegations against the club owner, which again happened years ago. And he has, and I thought maybe I should perform at that club to say, I don't want anyone to be a victim, but I don't want them to make themselves a fucking victim either. And then call up this promoter to interrogate him. But instead, the venue's been changed. But the thing is, this conversation is very important because there's been a very one-sided, and again, I'm going to say, we know the imbalance of power, sexual and political, is not going away. We all have a right to fucking complain, but you have to watch your accusations. And you know what? In especially the situation that America is in now, when there is a fucking sexual abuser as the president, and all of them under him are sexual abusers, that then we have to really think about who we are accusing of what for why. That's it. I'm not blaming the victims. I'm not blaming, and I'm not defending the predators. I'm saying the dialogue has to be opened. That's it.
I agree with you.
And you know what? That's why I'm so happy to have met you. Because when this accusations came out, having known Ken for a couple of decades, I don't know how long, and knowing how he is, at least with me, or seeing him in public, or seeing him with other people, other women, I was kind of astonished. And again, I'm sure we could get 100, if not 1,000. I haven't counted how many beds he's been in, and I'm sure you haven't either. They were like, that was a great success, fantastic. The thing is, there are 2, if not 3 sides to every story. And I'm very happy to open the discussion to this. Learn to get out and stop. If you don't like it, stop it. If you want more than somebody else does, that is not a reason to accuse them of anything. And this conversation could go on forever. This is a very important subject. And it's important also to realize what I love about you. You are free of many false moralities, freedom from false virtue. Pleasure is the ultimate rebellion. And so when somebody rebels against the pleasure they had, this to me is the ultimate effrontery. Why do you blame somebody else's pleasure, especially when you've enjoyed in it? Because there is no more of it. This to me is an absolute perversity of reason. And I think that we are very reasonable women, my friend Dominique.
And the conclusion I want to have to say about this is, like, I invite everybody to be cautious when they read like allegations on the web or whatever, because you don't know what has been hidden from you, the facts that have been hidden. There was another, I will be fast on this. There was another journal called the Eugene Weekly. I gave a 90 minutes interview for them because they were trying to ambush Ken again in like last October. And there is not one word on it. And they printed lies like saying the show is over because we made the interview. Not at all. The venue was being refurbished, and I have the proof of this. So they later bragged about, it's the best article because we had power on this man. No, you lied. You just printed lied and made me disappear. Like the KOW doesn't print my name down. They reduced me to 4 letters, to wife, because like this, I'm just an accessory of the man, I don't have a voice.
You're an accessory to the crime because it happened under your watch. False accusations. So I'm so happy to have had this conversation with you. It's very important because it's not one side of anything. And again, abuse is real. But we have to also realize what real abuse is. as opposed to a disappointment, as opposed to a night where you're too drunk and you're fucking and then you regret it, or you're too high. You have to take responsibility, women, for your fucking actions and learn to defend yourself against these kind of things. And that's why we're doing this. And to just complain or make accusations years after the fact is not enough. If you don't like it, throat punch the motherfucker, crack his fucking dick, rip his balls off, poke him in the fucking eyes. Don't just say, I liked it when I liked it. No, I don't like it. And so now I'm throwing accusations because this really fucking pisses me off. And that's why this is the Lydian Spin with Tim Dahl, with Dominique Stringfellow, and with Matilda Joon today. This is a very important conversation. I hope addressing a few different sides of this controversy.